jingle. Everybody get.
Wow.
Yeah, well, welcome, Eric. As I said to you earlier, I'm really excited to get into some of this stuff. I've been taking a lot of tracks from your new album down. Anybody who's tuning in, I mean, you should check out all Eric's stuff. His latest album is killing. It's got some great guests on it, but the tunes are great. And one thing I wanted to talk to you
Yeah.
about, which we'll get into in detail, I hope, is the actual your approach to the guitar. I've never heard anything really quite like it. It's I'm really excited by it. It's just a different way of using the guitar. I've never transcribed anything or worked anything out with this approach really.
Hmm.
But in terms of your new album, just for people who are listening, there's some great guests, and I'm very surprised to see Russell Malone on there. I know jazz is in your wheelhouse, but um, I mean, for anybody who doesn't know, Russell Malone is a virtuoso modern jazz guitar player.
Hmm.
So, have you known him a long time?
I've known his music a long time.
Yeah.
Um, he started playing with Jimmy Smith. I got to know him, well, mostly from his stuff with
Hmm.
Diana Krall, and he has that wonderful album called Heartstrings. Are you familiar with that one?
No, I don't know that album.
Yeah, it's a lovely album with strings and a lot of wonderful ballads, and he's just one of the sweetest, smoothest, you know, uh, exponents of that style. Kenny Burrell kind of,
Yeah.
Benson, even Wes, and it's just a beautiful way of playing guitar. Ray Crawford, but he's got such a smooth and elegant touch. So I've been aware of his music a long time, and then we wanted a kind of jump blues, kind of jazzy blues guitar player to augment that song on the album. There's a couple of songs, and we thought of George, who I'd opened for. We thought of, there's quite a few wonderful players, but Russell Malone came to mind, and my producer, Glenn, said, you know, Eric, what's it going to take? We reach out to him. He either says, yeah, I'm happy to do it, or I'm too busy, or whatever. So I reached out to Russell through Ron Carter, who he plays with, and I've known Ron a long time. And so, yeah, it all worked out. And he played beautifully. And, what a guy, what an honor to play with somebody of that caliber. He's
Mm.
just, yeah.
Yeah, I met him a few years ago. I just crossed his path a couple of times when I was on the road in the States, and I think I did a transcription book of Wes Montgomery stuff years ago. And I think I had that in my bag. Seem to remember I gave it to him.
Hmm.
I'm sure he pulled it apart and found all the mistakes. But yeah,
Hmm.
great player. I mean,
Hmm.
that's one thing I wanted to talk to you about really is Ron Carter, because I saw another interview with you and which gave a bit of your history and with
Hmm.
your dad's involvement in
Yeah.
music and your dad's position as a broadcaster. And so, is it right your dad had you in the house band with Ron Carter when you were in your late teens?
16 years old.
Wow.
I had a union card. This is New York City, NBC television. And my dad threw me in at the deep end.
Wow.
I was playing guitar. I had some classical lessons, and I was mostly trying to figure out how to accompany myself. I
Yeah.
was interested in singing and playing. And so, yeah, I could read a simple chart. And my dad said, okay, you've got the chair. And I said, well, who else is in the band? And I said, well, my first call is Bill Lee, Spike Lee's dad. And when Bill can't make it, Ron Carter and Selden Powell on tenor sax, and some other great luminaries, that completely intimidated me. But
Yeah.
it worked out, and to sit next to guys like that, I don't know, it changes you. It just it's like, okay, that's how you do it. So even if you can't do it like you've at least gotten a glimpse into the real deal, and it stays with you.
Yeah. I mean, did you get any sort of particular specifics that you can recall from playing with Ron Carter, for instance? Is any
No, no, nothing specific. It's just, your ears are huge when you're around musicians like that. So everything they play is just information that you're going to store away.
Yeah.
Uh, I was impressed just because everybody was reading, and everybody was a good reader, and uh, that was New York, and the scene at that time was people like you know, the guitar player Eric Gale, not Eric Gales, but
Yeah,
Eric
yeah,
Gale.
yeah.
Yeah,
Great groove player.
yeah. He was a session player at that time on some of my dad's sessions. So these kind of players were people who basically were the role models, even if you're not playing their style, their whole way of, you know, comporting themselves, their whole way of dealing with music in general and the business of music and all of that stuff was stuff that on some level I was taking in, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, did you have your reading together when you did that gig, or did you
Oh
particularly?
no, I mean I was not you know, like I said, I've taken some classical lessons, some jazz lessons, but I could read a chord chart. That was
Yeah,
about it. And if there was, you know, a little motif or something that, you know, I needed to cop, I would, you know, try to figure that out. But I was nothing like anywhere near, you know, what I wished I could have been. But,
yeah.
you know,
It's a particular skill, isn't it? You know,
it is. And it wasn't really my interest. Like I said, my primary preoccupation was accompanying myself,
mm,
writing songs, learning other people's songs, and learning how to be basically a one-man band.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was it.
I mean, I haven't really checked out your dad's thing particularly, but was your dad more sort of on the sort of folk side of things, or was he?
But yeah, he was definitely a trained singer who was uh, well known in folk circles as the guy who could really sing because he had, you know, just this beautiful voice.
Mm,
I think a lot of the folks at that time, a lot of the New York folkies were trying to pretend that they were, you know, more rural oriented and from, you know, the coal mines or from the Delta. There was a lot of kind of faking going on,
mm,
and I say that with a lot of love because who wasn't faking it, you know? But my dad wasn't trying to be a Delta blues singer because he wasn't. He was a trained singer who grew up singing in the church in Louisville, Kentucky. His idols were not people like, you know, Big Joe Turner or Muddy Waters or anybody like that. He loved the blues, but as a singer, he was more interested in, you know, Roland Hayes or Paul Robeson or
mm,
like I said, he studied leader. He studied, you know, classical singer.
yeah,
So yeah, my dad was in a circle of friends that included people like Odetta, Judy Collins, Pete Seeger was a family friend. Uh, yeah, my dad had the same manager as Pete, you know.
yeah,
So yeah, we were in the folk crowd, but basically, my dad had guitar players who were excellent, excellent musicians who were also role models for me. And
yeah.
I'm talking about guys like Walter Rame or Stuart Scharf. Stuart Scharf was a studio player uh, who, you know, played with Barbra Streisand, you know, towards the end of his career. So my dad had serious guitar players around the house, you know,
Mm.
people who bought, you know, D'Angelico guitars to the living
Yeah, you got to be a serious guitar player to afford
room.
an Angelico guitar.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. It was
And
something. It was really something. So I had it from both sides. I had the folk blues crowd, and I had the jazz crowd. My uncle was a famous jazz musician. My dad's musicians were well versed in you know jazz and classical music. So it was just like a heaven, you
oh,
know.
it sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. I mean, and I think you can hear all these elements in your stuff. There's some great things, and I've got a couple of things. If I could trouble you with a couple of
Yeah,
specific.
yeah. Be specific if you
But
will.
talking about the CD, I mean, it's amazing to have Tommy Sims on it. Billy Branch. I mean, that's proper a proper link right back to the source of Chicago blues, isn't it? You
Yeah,
know, that's like a big deal with the roots. Great to hear Taj Mahal on there.
yeah.
I love
Yeah.
Taj Mahal. I mean, I
Fantastic.
knew Mike Finnigan a little bit, who was in his band for a long time.
Yeah, I
And I
knew
would,
Mike. Yeah.
yeah, I was going to ask you if you knew Mike. Did you know him?
Well, no, no, and no. I met Mike through Bonnie. You
Right.
know,
Yeah, yeah,
he played with Bonnie for a while,
yeah,
and great player, great singer. You
yeah,
know, the last time I saw him, I know he's passed on, but I saw him in Finland at the Pori Jazz Festival with
yeah,
Bonnie.
yeah. Amazing musician, really. And another person with deep roots. He sort of really,
Hmm.
I got him to do a recording just for this project I was doing, and we did "Kind-Hearted Woman" blues with Robert Johnson. He just sang,
Hmm.
and I just played just on acoustic guitar,
Right.
rearranged it, which is what I stole for your jingle. I took the
Yeah.
gem of what I'd done for that and to make your jingle.
Yeah.
But anyway, Mike was really a student of that kind of stuff, and
Hmm.
he'd studied it. And I mean, your music is there's so many little elements to it that I'm just fascinated to check it out. So before I talk about the specifics, one thing I was really fascinated by in another interview I saw, you're talking about not just Mickey Baker's book, but actually studying with Mickey Baker. So that's got to be a game changer for somebody who's starting out.
Like I said, I had a chance to meet up close some great players. Uh, Mickey, Mickey was a legend. Mickey stood out in every way. When I met Mickey in Paris, he was working on an acoustic blues album together with Stefan Grossman.
Mm.
So he was studying Robert Johnson stuff. He put me in a room with a cassette and a cassette player and said, "Listen to this, and then we'll speak about it." And he put me in the room with the cassette of Robert Johnson, King of the Delta Blues Singers. And I'd heard it maybe snippets of it before, but I'd never really sat down and listened to that whole record. Um, it blew me away. I thought it was two guitar players.
Mm.
You know, Mickey said, "No, that's just one guy singing and playing at the same time. Go back and listen to it again." And it just the precision, not only the precision, but the composition, because they were compositions.
Mm.
You know, apparently Robert Johnson didn't really improvise that much. He more or less had an arrangement for a song, and he basically stuck to that. And
Right.
that piece, although I'm sure there were variations to a degree, his arrangements were compositions that were kind of etched in stone for me.
Right.
They had a kind of symmetry and a kind of perfection that was stunning. It was quite supernatural, actually.
Mm.
So that got me on the whole trail of the country blues guys, pre-war blues Delta players,
Yeah.
etc. Stayed with that for a long time. But yeah, what can I say? It's always going to be a combination of everything that you've ever heard that moved you. And Mickey Baker was one of those guys who um, his whole approach to to everything is one kind of thing. It was humorous, it was witty, it was intelligent, it was wry, it was tongue in cheek. He didn't take himself too seriously, even though he was a master. Uh, he ended his life on this planet this time around in Toulouse, near Toulouse, and he couldn't play, but he could compose, and he was composing classical guitar pieces.
Right.
And he had a player who would play his compositions for him so he could hear them played.
Yeah.
But he was one of those guys who could probably write the whole thing without an instrument.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Wow.
yeah.
So I mean,
And
talking about Robert Johnson, I mean, I think it sounds like you've gone into it much more deeply than I did, but just in
not as a player, as a listener.
yeah, sure, yeah, but
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if you'd agree with this. A couple of things I took away just from working on that one tune.
Hmm.
Um, there's that thing where he doesn't put the root in the bass, particularly on the four chord.
Hmm.
So a lot of the time you'll have the third, like if you're in a blues in A and you go to D, very often you'll hammer the F sharp or the
Hmm.
A. So it's
Yeah.
that sort of like there's movement, but there's a static element to it too as well. I mean, and the way he uses diminished chords as well. So we go
Mm.
one, one diminished back to one, one, four.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wow.
it's
Very advanced.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I see that's interesting that he was sort of seeing them as arrangements because I thought, how did he figure out this way
Hmm.
of using that thing with this thing with six strings to
Yeah.
make that much sound and sing over it?
Yeah. And then on top of that, to be a master of the slide, it was just crazy. I mean, that's why I say there's a supernatural element to his playing. Johnny Shimes, really absorbed a lot of his guitar moves, but there's something about Johnson's whole approach and attack as a singer and as a player that was just so unique.
Mm.
It was like, yeah, this is it, guys. The rest of you guys, you'll figure it out maybe someday, but this is it. this is this is it. This is the book. And
Well, yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, I feel like such a heathen because when I was young, I thought I just didn't get it, but
mm,
just a little bit of digging into it, it's like, this is incredible stuff. As you say, it sounds like two guys. Because
Yeah.
there's a certain kind of it's not that contrived modern kind of thing, but it's just it's like an arrangement, isn't it? It's like he's arranging for
Yeah.
band, and it's all on this thing. It's amazing, absolutely amazing.
I just want to add one more thing about him.
Mm.
To me, he incorporated in his tunes, and let's face it, Taj Mahal once told me, when it comes to country blues in the Delta, there's like 10 songs, Eric, and everything is basically a child of that song,
Mm.
one of those songs.
Mm.
And Robert Johnson had a way of distilling that language with key melodic phrases, turnarounds, or whatever, intervals that really define for me not only Delta blues, but all of its derivatives.
Mm.
He had a way of putting all of that information that makes up the whole book of blues into those songs, those 20 something songs he recorded. It's all there.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
all there. And anything that you're going to hear after that, you're going to hear something of that in Robert Johnson's music, whether it was, later T-Bone Walker or anybody. I mean, you're going to hear it.
yeah,
Johnson's playing.
yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
I mean, this is not the most seamless link. I'm looking like a lunatic. I'm looking at another screen over here, and I've got a transcription of a tune of yours, "Born of a Woman," which is a beautiful song, apart from anything else. But I've been pulling out what's left of my hair, trying to figure this out. So can I show you what I thought it was?
Yeah, yeah, I love this.
I mean, I don't think
love
I.
it.
So this is the intro. So I must be in
Okay.
the wrong tune.
Okay. No, 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 no. Listen, the thing is, I'm really impressed because the top melody, you're playing it on your 6 strings. I wrote that song on a 12 string. I'm going to play it to you on the 12 string. I'm going to play it to you on the 6 string. It's the capo of the second fret if you're in a standard tuning.
Yeah.
This particular guitar is tuned down a whole tone, so the capo on the 4th fret will be like the capo on the 2nd fret for you.
Yeah.
Drop D.
Yeah.
And what I did, and I'm playing it on the 6th string now, but so you're not going to hear the top melody, but this is what it is. The position is. So what I'm doing is, it's that position, the D and the A.
Yeah.
And what I'm doing is with my middle finger, I'm brushing up on the 2nd and 3rd string. So, and before that, it's the thumb and the forefinger on the 6th and the 4th and the 3rd string. So.
Ah.
So, what you're going to get after that is. So the position is, and I'm playing a bass line that goes, and then I'm playing with the 4th finger, that E string.
Right. Right.
But,
yeah.
But, now wait. If you play it on the 12th string with the octave strings, you get this.
Right. That's it. Right, I see.
Okay?
Yeah,
right.
That's it. The octave string. That was what was putting me off. It's like that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Brilliant.
So the either bring a 12 string for that song, or get one of those pedals that simulates a 12 string.
Yeah.
But it works even without that high note. But that note, it's nice.
Yeah. That's what hung me up. But man, that's brilliant. Thank you so much for getting that. I love that groove. So this is another question. This relates to a few of these things I've taken down.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to take too much of your time with it.
Don't worry about it.
One thing I'm so several things. First thing, in your like a little overview of your music, it's really great when you hear an artist or a band where every tune is different. It's not like there's a core sound and this tune's kind of like that tune.
Mm-hmm.
You always do that.
Mm-hmm.
Always. Everything's
Well,
different.
I gotta interject. I've noticed, particularly lately, um, because I've written a lot of songs,
Mm,
and I know when I'm going into territory that I've visited before, but
right.
I basically reshuffled either the groove or the finger picking pattern, but the shapes are going to be repeated, just like with anybody, like
Mm,
Guy Clark or James Taylor or whoever. You're going to hear, or Paul Simon, you're going to
yeah.
hear, or Randy Newman, even if you're not a guitar player, you're going to hear moves that basically are going to be utilized in, you know, a third of your songs, you know.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a question of finding something either lyrically or musically, even so, that is unique enough to make people think, oh, that's a little like that, but it's not like he's just, you know, put some new lyrics to it and
Yeah.
wrote it wrong, you know.
Yeah.
So, and the simpler you get, I mean, singers like John Prine, writers like that, who basically use a lot of the same shapes from song to song. Um, you're going to find that the detail in the pattern and certainly the lyrics are really what's going to set it apart. Because if you analyze somebody like, for example, John Prine's songbook, you're going to find some pretty straight ahead moves, you know. There's not that many altered chords, you know. There'll be inversions, but there's a lot of ones, fours, and fives, and that's great. If you can pull that off, I mean, that's to me what a master is.
Mm,
And he was a master songwriter. And then again, it's the details. It's a little thing that's going to make it, you know, its own thing, you
yeah.
know.
Yeah. I mean, another thing this brought up, just this particular tune, is, I mean, even with that alteration using the 12 string, it's still the
Mm,
same pattern. You know, it's still
mm,
has involved a pattern on the guitar.
mm,
How would how do you go about working on independence? Because you're amazing. You're just singing over the top of
mm,
it. It's just you make it sound so easy, and I know for a fact it's not easy. Well,
mm.
it's not easy to me.
No, it's
So
not easy. It takes time. I got to say, you know, that whole business of freeing up the singing from the guitar playing, it's a process. And it's a process that you have to be conscious of because that is the goal. I
mm,
mean, the masters take a guy like, if you want to go to the top of the food chain, take a guy like Blind Blake, who could play circles around the sun at the same time that he was not even singing, but talking out of rhythm coherently. I mean, this is about bicycle riding. This is about left and right brain
yeah,
halves
yeah,
coordinating.
mm,
And once you kind of crack that nut, it's like riding a bicycle. Once you figured out that, it gets easier from tune to tune. But an easy, very important technique, which Pete Seeger underlined in his book about how to be a folk singer, you practice the guitar part independently over and over and over until the muscle memory is so established.
mm,
Then you can start to fool around with your phrasing so that you're not phrasing according to your downbeats.
mm,
You know, you're
mm,
freeing up the phrasing so that you're singing over bar lines. Another thing with playing, like with a singer, a player like um, like John Hurt, you know, he was one of those guys who could just play a beautiful pattern and really just float over the lyric. But the trick is to, with the syncopations, you have to kind of roll with it. So you're not playing in a kind of military style. You're playing more in a kind of calypso where you're rolling from one note to the other, you know. And your accents are going to propel you forward as opposed to,
yeah, right,
you got to start there, but you
yeah,
get to the point where you can go.
yeah.
You know, it's a it's a lifelong journey, is what
Sure,
it
yeah,
is.
sure,
Is what
yeah.
it
I
is.
mean, it's that sounds. What's that guitar, by the way? That sounds.
This is a lovely guitar, and it's something I saw in Paris. There's a guy whose name is Maurice Dupont. He's not in the best of shape these days. I hear he's semi-retired, but Maurice Dupont was famous for making the Selma kind of Macafari, gypsy guitars.
Yeah.
But he decided to make a flat top guitar at the, I think he was asked by Larsen Brothers. And Larsen Brothers was that company way back in the 19th century who made those beautiful prairie guitars. There were two Swedish immigrants who came to the States and made beautiful guitars. They passed on their logo, and somehow it got bought up by a company in Germany, and they asked Maurice Dupont to make this guitar, and he made a couple of them. But this is all mahogany. But I wish I had another one, but you get greedy.
Yeah, sure, yeah. The top players, I mean, it's the way it is.
Yeah, but it's a really nice guitar that I've toured a lot with.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you this. I've got another tune here. I don't need to play it. 500 Miles. Firstly, I love that song. I just love that. It's just a beautiful song. So anybody listening, you want to check something out, this has got to be one of the first ones you check out because it's a lovely song. But the pattern is so cool, and it makes me think. It's really interesting how. Do you nearly always play in drop D, or do you use loads of tuning?
I don't use loads of alternate tunings. I use drop D a lot, as much as I use standard tuning, if not more. And I also use open G sometimes, and I use some variations, some dadgaddy type of things once in a while.
Yeah.
But mostly my go-to space is drop D.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing the way you use a capo. To me, I mean, I'm kind of I did classical guitar pretty seriously, and then I left that going back to playing rock and blues and jazz. But this is a revelation to me. The way you use a capo, it's just
yeah.
What am I doing here? That I mean, and then you move through the changes.
Yeah, I'll show it to you. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Well, the thing is, it's funny with that song, and it was really a kind of object lesson for me. I loved the song when I first heard it, way back in the 60s. I heard it even before it was 500 miles. I heard it when it was 900 miles. A song that kind of preceded 500 miles. I think the banjo player, Hetty West, basically streamlined it to 500 miles. And then it became, kind of lingua franca in the folk circles. Peter, Paul, and Mary recorded it. All the folkies at that time loved that song. My dad recorded a beautiful version that was arranged by his guitar player, Stuart Scharf, and Bill Lee, who was playing bass, Spike Lee's dad. They came up with a beautiful arrangement. My dad recorded it on a live album called Encore. And then I remembered the song during the Patreon, the pandemic, when I had to come up with 3 songs every week for my Patreon page.
Right.
I recalled that song, and I thought, oh, maybe I should work out an arrangement for that. And I actually worked it out on a 6-string banjo, which is on the record. But it's basically that drop D, and my capo's on the 3rd fret, but it would be on the 1st fret for you.
Yeah.
But it's like that shape that you showed me was the one that I use.
Right.
You can play a D chord like this, bar, 3 strings, and then the D here, and then the F sharp here. Yeah. And then I like taking away that 1st finger, so you get that kind of suspended thing.
Lovely.
So it was this. Drop D. I'm showing you all my tricks here. All right, here you go. Then to the minor 3rd, the relative minor 3rd. And you're keeping those other fingers the same way, and then you're changing to the 2. Same pattern. And then, I'm barring, and then that's the whole song. That's the whole song.
Yeah.
I have so many songs where I'm using this shape that the confusion will be if I'm on stage, I'll get the shape, but I'll be playing a pattern from another song, and I have to remember the rhythm is this. Yeah,
Yeah.
But I
I mean,
use it a lot.
I mean that thing of sharing information between one thing and another. I mean, it makes me, when you said that earlier, it made me think, if you check out John Coltrane's solo on Giant Steps, he's playing a lot of the same stuff over and over. It's
Yeah,
hard. It's really
yeah,
hard. So you
yes,
think,
yes,
okay, why
yeah,
not? It's the
yeah, yeah,
it's
exactly.
the whole
You know,
statement is what's important.
well, the thing is, I never was a flashy kind of technical player. I always cheated on my lessons, with scales and speed and, all that kind of stuff. Uh, so I realized rather early on that I was not going to be that kind of flashy player. So instead, I focused really on uh, harmonies that really excited me, that worked inside of a country blues kind of uh, language. And those harmonies would be the modal things, the seconds and the sixths and the nines that
Yeah.
work, uh, you know, where you can play a chord like, you know.
Yeah.
And, if you don't overdo it, you can put those kind of chords in a country blues kind of context and it'll work.
Yeah.
So I found that that was more where I lived. And the other important thing, really, is the groove thing. If you can really get a steady thumb and a kind of metronomic but swinging kind of groove going, so that you are really able to dance to it, even though you're not dancing, but you're either standing or you're sitting, and you're playing with your whole body. That's really important.
Mm.
To me, it is, because if the groove is right, no matter what shape my voice is, no matter how many notes I might miss in a pattern, if the groove is there, it's gonna work, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell you, this you're just spurring me on to just think about another tune of yours because it's it's amazing. This groove, blues funky like that. Oh man, that's so good. And I saw it
I
before.
don't even remember how I played that.
I,
I know
I,
I played it on a banjo. You probably can play it.
I always play with
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
I'm playing really stiff.
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
But this is one of those things. I mean, it sounds to me like a lot of your tunes. If you just played what you played, so if you wanted to go on the road and play on your own,
Yeah.
it would just be cool.
It
I'd
would
just
work.
be happy as Larry,
Yeah.
just sitting there, just showing you do these things. So it's a few of these things. It sounded like on the record you thought, oh, I'll tell you what, I won't play that bit. I'll either double it on another instrument or get the other guy to play it.
Yeah.
But that's such a. I'm absolutely just disgracing myself with it. But
Yeah.
you get
There
any
you
quarter.
go. There you go. There you go. You got the six in there. Yeah.
I love it, man. It's a lot of these things anyway. They sound so great on their own, but it's also lovely the way you use a band. This new album, I mean, I love all.
Well, listen, I got to tell you right there,
Hmm.
my producer, Glenn Scott, is nothing short of a genius.
Right.
And he's a tailor-made genius for me, because he's somebody who really not only has an amazing vocabulary as a musician and as a player of many instruments, but he also is a master of many idioms. Really has understood where I'm coming from, like nobody else who I've ever worked with. So to me, I'm in heaven. It's like I have an idea. I know somebody wants to, my producer wants to showcase what I've done on my own, but he also wants to augment it in a way that's not going to deform it, but that's going to just amp up the groove factor. And it's heaven for me. It's heaven.
Yeah. I mean, this record's. I mean, it's amazing.
Thank
It's
you.
really nice to hear. I love Steve Jordan's playing,
Mm.
and Eric Gales. Eric Gales is. I don't know him, but he's very good friends with a very good friend of mine. The guy who runs this guitar company.
Okay. Yes.
Eric's one of the artists on this company as
Yes.
well.
Yes. He
So I
is.
don't
Yeah.
know him, but he's very good friends with one of
Oh,
my.
he's an amazing musician. Um, a wonderful person to hang out with, and just talk life with. very wise guitar player in
Yeah.
terms of, uh, again, we're talking about somebody who has an imagination that's got no ceiling, and he's got the chops,
Oh man. Oh yeah.
man.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you rarely get that combination
Yeah.
of guys who really, he's one of the few guys who can shred, and I'm going to listen to him because his shredding is on a whole nother level. It's not just a lot of notes, which it is, but the intervals that he's choosing to play, man, it's so informed, man.
Oh
It's
yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. He's got. I mean, he's got the Hendrix thing down.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
there's
yes, yes.
more
So
classic
many.
stuff.
Oh, he's integrated so much of everything, whether it's Curtis Mayfield or whatever.
Yeah.
I hear every guitar player I ever loved in him,
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Well, that I mean, these grooves are so lovely. I mean, it's again, anybody listening, you got to check this album out. It's just,
Hmm.
I can't stop listening to it. It's just so
That's
beautiful.
great to hear. That's great. And I'm
Really
sure
good.
Glenn is going to be happy when I tell him. Yeah.
What am I? I'm looking at my notes here. Uh, I mean, I should ask you this. What's the influence of world music on you? Because you mentioned calypso there.
Hmm.
I mean, is that a realistic question? Is that it's
Yeah, yeah. Well,
there's
for
stuff going on
me,
I can't identify in what you do.
no, listen, I grew up at a time when the hipper edge of the folk crowd was really the precursor of world music. I mean, when I went to Washington Square Park, at age 11 to jam on Sundays,
Yeah.
uh, there were steel pan players, there were banjo players, there were auto harp players, there were bongo players, there were Irish fiddlers, there were Appalachian banjo players. Uh, I heard so much music, there were uh, West African drummers, Olatunji was a neighbor of mine. So world music, they didn't have that pigeonhole, that brand at the time.
Right.
You didn't hear the world music. But basically, for me, I was listening to everything from fado music from Portugal to, you know, Joseph Spence from the Bahamas,
Yeah.
to Olatunji to the Clancy brothers. I mean, it was all music. It was all, and it was world music. And then at the age of 14, somebody gave me a record of kora music from West Africa, from
Mm.
Guinea.
Yeah.
It changed my life. It totally changed my life. I heard a sound that, as well, at once was familiar, and I couldn't tell you why it felt so familiar, but it felt like home. It was
Mm.
like, I know this music. So I followed kora players, um, like a madman. Uh, since then, seeking out any kora player who was in my vicinity, recording with them, befriending them. I went to West Africa with Habib Kwate, the guitar player. Um, there was a kora player in the hotel lobby, I mean, it was just, I've been following that music. And the influence of that particular type of music, the Mandinka kora genre, really kind of infiltrated my guitar playing.
Yeah.
And when I play with kora players, many of them, my friends, the late Solo Sissoko, Lamin Sissoko, who I play with these days, they all say, "Hey, man, you sound like a kora player. You play like, you know, all those arpeggios. That's kora music." I said, "Yeah, great."
Yeah.
you know,
Well, you're a sponge then, aren't you? You're just picking. You're wide open, aren't you? You
it's
just
selective though. It's selective.
right.
I mean, I hear a lot of music, and some of it I love, but I'll never be able to play that kind of music. There's a lot of wonderful jazz that I love to listen to, but it's never really beckoned
Yeah.
as a player. I always just wanted to sing and play and accompany myself and find out ways to accompany myself that sounded complete,
Yeah.
so that if the bass player didn't show up, the piano player didn't show up, the other guitar player, because I love playing with another guitar player.
Yeah.
Uh, there you go. I'm going to get together with Robbie McIntosh soon again. He's a
Nice.
player who I really like, and
Great player. Yeah.
yeah, love to hook up with him again. But I love playing with another guitar player who can basically, for me, remind me of that sound of a kora, which has 10 strings on one side and 11 on the other side of the chorus.
Yeah.
And that interplay where you get, that's why I love finger picking, you know, you get a top line, you get a bass line, but then you get melodies that in between strings, the second, the third, and the fourth string are playing. That's like a third melody.
Yeah.
So you're getting a bass line, you're getting the top two strings, but then the inside strings are creating another strand. You know, it's endlessly fascinating for me.
Yeah, it's. I mean, what you do sounds like you do find it fascinating because, as I say, everything. There's so much variety in all these grooves. It's really exciting. Really, really good. So, one thing I noticed on which tune was it? One of your tunes I transcribed. I think it was. Yeah, one of them. You were bending just at like a quarter tone on the flat seven. Is that totally deliberate, or is that just from listening to stuff?
Is that on the new album or what?
Yeah, this is just one little thing. It's going to be horrendously out of tune. Just bear in mind, I've got the tuning all wrong. It's horrendously out of tune. See what I mean? So that
what? Yeah.
I love the sound of that.
What tune? What song was that?
That's like the last bit of "Born of a Woman." So you got a bit where I'm in the wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time to look at these things.
You know, I love talking guitars because I love guitars, you know, and I just love playing and finding out what people are doing. And, you know, it's nice to see somebody who's taken the time to figure out what I've been doing because I find it fascinating that people find their own way of recreating what I've done, and sometimes in a completely different tuning or whatever capo position.
Yeah.
But it's funny, and then I love, you know, saying, "Well, hey, try it like this," and yeah.
Yeah, thanks for you saved my bacon. I was gonna like, I don't know.
Oh yeah, that thing with the high string. I mean, you can't do. I mean,
yeah.
You know, you need that high.
A little bit painful, but one last thing. I read or did I hear it somewhere you were thinking about doing an instrumental album? Any chance of that?
Oh yeah, definitely. There's probably one already in the can. But lately and that's not a solo one. I've decided to do a solo instrumental album with maybe, I've got to set parameters. Maybe I'll allow one overdub. So there'll be a piece and then there'll be an overdub, you know, and it might be fun to transcribe both parts, you know.
Yeah.
So I started actually thinking about that fairly recently. So
yeah,
I'll keep you posted. Yeah.
Yeah, please do. Yeah. Listen, I don't want to take any more of your time. I'm honoured. Thank you so much because I've loved taking this stuff apart, trying to figure out how to do it. But
yeah, cool. Well, thank you for being so interested in what I've been doing. It's a flattering thing.
No, at all. Thanks for the inspiration. And anybody watching, please check out Eric's stuff. It's amazing. He's always on the road. Please keep your eye out because you won't be disappointed. Also, great to see you playing with Paul Robinson.
Yes, indeed. I love playing with
player.
Paul.
What a player.
We're going to meet up in a couple of weeks. Well, actually, in a week. I'll be seeing him. I've got a couple of gigs in the UK coming up. So
wow, great, amazing player. Eric, thank you so much, man. All the best.
Andy, thank you.
All the best.
All right.
Bye bye. Cheers.
All the best.
Thank you.